The game world merged with reality, and while everyone else received a system, our protagonist Carl's system showed absolutely nothing. It would occasionally flicker as if it were bugged. He trained his ass off but still couldn't get stronger. However, he didn't know that he was actually the final boss of this world. This blonde young man, Lender, is the strongest human yet standing before Carl. He was so scared he'd pee his pants. Because in Lender's eyes, Carl was a demon lord with a 4-digit level, immeasurable, infinite HP, and unfathomable status, and the title, World Ender. Without further ado, let's begin. The story has finished its first season. Enjoy watching a game called Will of Earth transmigrated to the real world. And of course, this game was not simple. It always presented daunting challenges for players. One of those tasks was to confront super-level cosmic monsters and NPCs from different factions who simultaneously descended upon the threatened world. Fortunately, with the spread of this game, an unavoidable phenomenon occurred. Every human became a player. And naturally, players could freely choose the information and characteristics for their characters. When the game first started, people didn't have to face anything major, just get used to the game. All players started as newbies and received combat abilities to fight monsters. However, contrary to Carl's expectations of an awesome monster annihilation, he was the one left out. His system showed no reaction whatsoever. Now Carl's face froze, not understanding why. At this moment, Carl's face went pale on the spot, as if he'd just experienced something disgusting. Tears welled up inside him seeing his rough start. Truly, the Lord of Misfortune of the year, Carl was chosen for instability. An ordinary university student, as normal as could be, encountered an abnormal situation at a crucial moment. Now Carl's superhero dreams had all vanished as the system malfunctioned. Character creation failed, ejecting from the system. The system did as it said, and the next second he was kicked out immediately. "Don't kick me out!" In the quiet space, standing amidst the currents of life, he couldn't help but feel how transient and unfair his life was. Although he desperately wanted to destroy the monsters himself with his bare hands, he couldn't even touch a single hair on them. He found himself unequipped with any items. No matter how hard Carl tried to train, nothing changed. He couldn't gain experience points, couldn't level up, and even worse, he couldn't even open his own attribute window. Though snow was falling outside and the wind blew relentlessly, it wasn't as cold as Carl's heart at that moment. Ordinary humans couldn't survive in this dangerous game world. Carl fell into deep despair. Yet while Carl was utterly helpless and resigned, something seemed to mock him, so pitiful, still a virgin even in death. Despite life throwing cold water in his face, he remained optimistic and smiled brightly like a flower. It was just that things had reached a point where he had no other choice. Find a safe place to hide first, then slowly figure out how to survive. It's not ideal, but it's better than nothing. He tried to make the most of what he had. Luckily, his backpack wasn't bugged. Just some newbie potions, huh? Facing his current urgent situation, Carl sat down cross-legged to think. In this situation, I should go to the safe zone first. I need to team up with nearby players. Suddenly, while he was pondering, a very suspicious vortex appeared in the sky. At this moment, Carl still didn't know that another calamity was about to befall him. He just stared blankly at the sky, not understanding anything. Surprise. One second it was quiet, the next, a purple beam of light shot straight down to the ground like a meteor, shattering the earth into many pieces. A blond man named Lender, standing on a building quite far away, also noticed this shocking event. So it has finally come. And what he was referring to was none other than the apocalypse. After a rough landing on the ground, a hideous creature slowly emerged from the thick white smoke. Carl had already scrambled to hide behind a boulder, only daring to cautiously peek out. After a quick glance, he silently guessed, "Is that a field boss plain as day?" The monster then began to reveal its true form. Surprisingly, it was a girl with an extremely voluptuous and attractive appearance. Heavenly King Commander Belian, level 97 Demon Tribe, S-Rank, Demon Beast Commander. "Is this the place?" Belian mused. "The place where the Demon Lord will descend as foretold in the prophetic dream." At this moment, seeing her appearance, Carl's jaw dropped and his eyes went wide. An S-rank monster. He thought, even if it's the apocalypse, I'm still a sucker for pretty girls. That won't change even in my next life. Faced with her stunning beauty, he changed his tune in an instant and whipped out his phone perhaps to take a picture. thinking, "This is going to get so many views." Suddenly, Billion seemed to be looking for something, shaking her head and glancing left and right. She then put a finger to her lips with a playful expression. "I'm a bit bad with directions, not too sure." However, after looking around for a while, Billion finally seemed overjoyed to have found the place she needed. Recognized it. This is indeed the place. The next second, Billion proceeded to the next step, reaching into her bosom and pulling out a small piece of paper. It turned out that inside the paper was the image of the man Billion was head over heels for. Her eyes couldn't help but fill with affection when she saw him. "So I'll wait here for the Demon Lord's advent. I've redrawn the Demon Lord who appeared in my prophetic dream. Such a handsome face." She was so infatuated she had become a die-hard fan, hugging the paper tightly and jumping for joy as if she were on cloud 9. After indulging in that dream, Billion returned to reality to confront the players. It's just that this annoying crowd is somewhat ruining the scenery. Everyone was utterly astonished and taken aback to be directly facing such a powerful opponent. Why is it like this? An obvious boss right at the start. She also showed some sympathy for them, but what could she do? Bellion's mission was to log them out of here. Truly a bit unlucky, aren't they? Billion activated her skill, absolute level 27. The next second, a magic formation appeared right where Billion stood, with energy radiating from it so powerfully that it flung them far away. And of course, what was bound to happen happened. A bloody massacre unfolded, causing instant death to creatures within range that were 10 levels or more lower than her. Terrified by this gruesome sight, Carl trembled uncontrollably and accidentally made a sound. This is more like it. How can the Demon Lord descend without a red carpet? Hearing it clearly, he quickly covered his mouth and hid behind the boulder, his face as pale as a sheet. I have to run. However, it seemed too late because Billion had now noticed the boulder he was hiding behind. Finding it suspicious, she slowly approached it. Carl at this moment couldn't help but pray for himself. Who is it? How could they survive that attack just now? I'm done for. But things didn't end so quickly. Suddenly, a beam of light flashed past, darting like a god behind the boulder where Carl was hiding, leaving him with his jaw dropped and eyes wide at the terrifying speed. He witnessed the beam of light fly from one place to another at an incredible pace. Carl was completely stunned. What is this now? Not only him, but Billion was also very surprised by the appearance of an unexpected character. She exclaimed, "This attack!" Faced with this incredible movement speed, she wasn't confident she could withstand it and immediately leaped into the air to dodge. After escaping a scythe-like slash, Billion landed on the ground, her face contorted with anger, more so than a monkey eating chili, furious that her business had been interrupted by that person. And the one who had just made that legendary flash step was none other than Doolender. "Billion, you're as grumpy as ever, huh?" Being taunted, she couldn't help but boil with rage and retorted, "You blew up the road right at the start. What right do you have to talk about me? Doolender level 101, God's messenger, most humanity's highest combat power with the title Hope of Mankind. Don't be so fierce." It had to be said that this handsome man had clearly saved Carl. Billion, extremely angry, pointed at him and questioned, "What are you doing here without beating around the bush?" Doolender said directly, "Of course I'm here to stomp on the newborn Demon Lord." Then Doolender placed his hand on his chin, his eyes scanning the surroundings. "Although the prophecy showed me an image, I'm not sure if this is the place." It turned out that the place he was looking for coincidentally matched the place Billion was looking for. This is indeed the place. However, she understood Doolender's purpose clearly and couldn't help but fly into a rage exuding killing intent. "I will absolutely not allow you to touch the Demon Lord." With her hot-tempered nature, Billion was incredibly energetic and leaped high, intending to attack him. He stood still, silent. Too fast, too dangerous. She had already slashed at Doolender like a cat's scratch. Billion, still not satisfied, continued by thrusting her hands repeatedly at him. Doolender remained motionless, only defending. Seeing that she hadn't even touched a hair on him, she continued to charge forward with a look like she wanted to eat him alive. Faced with the relentless attacks from Billion, Doolender flashed a disdainful smile, not even bothering to counterattack. The monster within her had truly awakened. Billion then pulled out an 8-meter-long whip, preparing to flourish it and strike him. Only Carl was in one spot, his eyes wide open, watching the scene. The next second, she poured all her fury into her strikes, whipping the ground so hard that it shattered. Doolender, who had been taking it easy until now, finally started to get serious. Wasn't he amazing? From mid-air, Doolender summoned a holy silver wind blade to battle Belian. Then a clamorous, earth-shattering fight erupted, neither willing to yield. Despite the world-shaking battle raging outside behind the boulder, Carl couldn't help but wonder about his own presence. Who am I? Where is this? I'm so scared. There's nothing to cry or grieve about. He thought he was the brightest shining star, but who knew Carl was now just a background character for the battle between these two. After a fierce fight where they seemed to have lost all sense of direction, Belian's HP was very low. Do you think you can defeat me like this? Just when it seemed she was out of power, who would have guessed Belian began to enter her second phase, buffing her strength to a new level. Just thinking about meeting the Demon Lord soon fills me with power again. Warning, Commander Belian's HP at 10%. Entering second phase. Attack power increased by 20% and cannot be controlled. As soon as she finished speaking, she crouched down like a frog. Then in just an instant, Belian shot straight up like a whirlwind. With the powerful long whip in her hand, Belian prepared to swing it at him. Prepare to die, Doolender. Faced with her incredibly bold and risky move, he couldn't help but be wary. Crazy woman if she kills me. Thinking that staying in this predicament wasn't good, Doolender then took out a small piece of paper from his pocket. I can only resort to that trick. Finally, he played his strongest trump card. Doolender held the paper out in front of her just as Belian was about to punch him. Indeed, his method was completely effective. As soon as she saw the paper, she immediately stopped her hand, her face looking bewildered at the paper. This is... It turned out the trick Doolender had just used was the handsome man gambit, which made Belian hopelessly infatuated. Demon Lord, while she was still captivated by the paper, Doolender quickly seized this opportunity to attack her vulnerability. The price of her infatuation was a powerful kick to the face. Belian was kicked so hard by Doolender that her face was almost deformed. Even though she was a girl, he didn't hold back at all, sending Belian flying tens of meters to his satisfaction. The kick was so powerful it created a long, deep gash in the ground. Just moments ago, the two were fighting as tense as a taut string, but now Belian lay sprawled on the ground, leaving Carl completely frozen. After being dealt a painful blow by Doolender, she slowly tried to get up. However, what happened next was utterly shocking. The picture with the drawing of the Demon Lord had its head torn off, causing her to panic. Demon Lord... She held up the picture, trembling, her heart filled with immense bitterness, while her mouth endlessly cursed. As a god's messenger to play such a shameless trick, taking advantage of my love for the Demon Lord. Belian clenched the paper and slowly stood up, filled with even more rage. Furthermore, you damaged the Demon Lord's face. What just happened had pushed Belian to her limit. She was now no different from a monster about to awaken. The Demon Lord's face! But then, suddenly, the next second, she glanced towards Carl. He was still motionless in one spot, not daring to move. Seeing that he had been discovered by the female demon, Carl determined that today was the day he'd be ascending to the altar to watch the naked chickens, a Vietnamese idiom meaning to die. Surprise, old man. Just when he thought she would mince him into pieces, Belian mistook him for the Demon Lord. Finally, I have waited for you, my lord. Belian waited, but Doolender couldn't wait any longer. He gripped his sword tightly and rushed towards Belian like a moth to a flame. And immediately, in just a few short seconds, she shared the same fate as Gojo in another universe, being split in two by Doolender. Her blood splattered all over Carl's face. He was thrown from one surprise to another, to the point where he was now too scared to utter a word. Seeing him approach her with his sword, Carl felt like he was about to ascend to heaven, dealing with these people who enjoyed bloody, thrilling games. Carl's eyes went white, as if he had lost his soul, and now he was no different from a stranded fish, gasping for air, waiting to die. As expected of one of the 7 heavenly kings of the demon tribe, Doolender's HP after a fierce battle was also not much left. To push me to such a dangerous extent, the green crowns, or a power indicator, gradually appeared. No matter, I just need to set up a trap. After dealing with the first obstacle, Belian, he began his next plan. Wait for the Demon Lord to descend, step on the trap, then kill him. Doolender at this moment seemed to still not have noticed Carl's presence. However, just a few seconds later, he suddenly turned his head and their eyes met. That's right, the specific location is probably here. The atmosphere now suddenly became incredibly awkward as everyone froze like statues. He thought only Bilian had recognized him as the Demon Lord, but even Doolender was now dumbfounded. When did the Demon Lord descend? Doolender activated skill induction, level 23. Activated skill empowerment, level 39. Immediately after successfully activating his super induction, he tried to measure Carl's level, or rather the Demon Lord before him. And the result was that Doolender came up empty-handed, gaining nothing. Infinite HP immeasurable, status unfathomable, title world ender. Faced with Carl's hidden power, he was also utterly shocked. A 4-digit level, how can this be? It was truly a case of jumping out of the frying pan into the fire, because now Doolender was low on HP and his current level was still green compared to the Demon Lord, so he couldn't help but pray in his heart. Then Doolender started to overthink things a bit. Could it be his plan is to solo me and then take my head without any effort? Such an insidious, deceitful, and cruel Demon Lord. Doolender, I will guide the players to maturity, and together with them we will defeat the Demon Lord and save the world. I am the hope of mankind. A revolving lantern of thoughts appeared in his head. Seeing Carl slowly stand up, he also began to gather his strength into a ready defensive stance. However, Carl was frighteningly silent at this moment and raised his hand to cover his mouth. With his overthinking mind, Doolender continued to deduce. It's over. According to what Doolender imagined, Carl would condense a fienden, likely a powerful energy orb or attack. Then, like a monster, extend it forward, overwhelming him. Foolish human, how dare you injure my subordinate? He's definitely angry now. And 7749 apocalyptic visions began to invade his mind. The world is about to be destroyed. However, surprisingly, in reality, Carl handed him a potion. This incredibly friendly act also made him freeze for 5 seconds. Doolender looked at Carl with an expression of disbelief. The Demon Lord in front of him was actually as gentle as a fairy. And the crucial reason for this was that the Demon Lord didn't know his own identity. Your HP is depleted, but this is all I have. If you don't mind, would you like to drink it? The fusion area between Earth and our world has reached 30% of Earth's surface area. Reports of humans participating in the game are being announced. Humans on Earth have successfully awakened as players and begun to fight demon beasts. Everything seems to be progressing very smoothly. We just need to follow the plan. A man in a suit was very pleased with this progress. Very good. Helping players mature is the mission of us NPCs. Then they also discussed Doolender's situation. How is Doolender from the Divine Light Oracle doing? Has he killed the commander-level demon beast that was heralding the Demon Lord's birth? Next, he excitedly revealed the next plan. As long as we kill the Demon Lord in his infancy, we can win this war without a fight. Entrusting it to Lord Doolender, there's certainly no need to worry. The person who heard this was also very relieved. As expected of Doolender to be able to think of such a superb and convenient way to execute this. And the title of the legendary hero Doolender is truly worthy of the hope of mankind. However, they didn't know that he was currently completely petrified before the Demon Lord. The two sides confronted each other in vastly contrasting states. One was out of HP, while the other was a full HP Demon Lord. Seeing him frozen in place without reacting, Carl asked again, "Not drinking." At this moment, Doolender was still suspicious. What does he mean? Does he want revenge for his subordinate? It must be poison. Indeed, his habit of overthinking was still present. Although no one had done anything, Doolender was already sweating profusely. He could easily kill me like this, yet he's tricking me into drinking poison. It must be because he doesn't want me to die too easily. Indeed do. Lender had a very unfavorable view of Carl, so in his mind, Carl was always the villain. Struggle in agony and then die, you mongrel. What a despicable Demon Lord. He was now extremely hesitant, not knowing whether to drink it or not. Although I say that if I refuse, I'll definitely be killed. With his end-stage delusion, Doolender suddenly gathered his strength, pretending not to know. Perhaps there's still a chance of survival. Then, like a ravenous monster, he snatched the potion forcefully from Carl's hand. At this moment, Carl just stood and watched him, not making any move. As soon as he opened the potion, Dolender had an incredibly comical expression when he realized what the potion was. It was nothing, just a normal newbie HP potion. Thinking Dolender was disappointed, Carl quickly explained, "Sorry, this is all I have in my bag right now." However, he didn't know that his recent action had almost made Dolender's heart stop and kick the bucket. "You scared the hell out of me!" He was still as sure as a nail hammered into wood that Carl was teasing him. "Despicable demon lord, how dare you tease me!" Then he also flashed a friendly smile and spoke up, "But good or bad, I've escaped the brink of death. Ah, it's true." Dolender still couldn't shake the thought that Carl was trying to harm him. "Tell me, what do you really want?" He looked at Carl with a face as tense as a guitar string. Then, as soon as he saw Carl thinking about an answer, Dolender became a little tense and got his weapon ready. "Actually, I want to ask where the nearest safe zone for newbies is." Who would have thought he would ask such a harmless question? Not expecting to receive such a question, he was also a bit taken aback. "Newbie what now?" Then Carl searched his memory and said, "It's the place where low-level people with no combat ability can slowly learn and develop." Hearing this, a very sinister smile began to appear on Dolender's lips. "So that's it. He has this intention, huh? In the safe zone are all newly spawned adventurers who are also the ones who will kill him in the future." Although Carl's mind was still very innocent at this moment, Dolender's overthinking had already tainted it. He definitely plans to kill them all while they're weak. What a scheme. After thinking this and that to himself for a while, he smiled sinisterly again. "But do you think I would sell them out just to survive?" After a bit of an internal struggle, he still decided to lead Carl to the place he wanted. "Forget it. I still have to save my own life first. After all, I am the irreplaceable hope of mankind." When he was led to the place by Dolender, Carl was overjoyed and gratefully said, "Thank you, big brother. You're so kind." After there was nothing more for him to do with Carl, Dolender also waved goodbye and left with a forced smile. On the surface, he was smiling, but inside, Dolender was now a whole sky of bitterness. "Hateful demon lord. Wait until I get back to the safe zone, then I'll contact my superiors." However, before this ordeal was over, he had to face another one as another monster suddenly appeared. Not wanting to get entangled with these monsters for any longer, Dolender immediately drew his sword and slashed. The monster exploded and disintegrated like fireworks. Wild monsters. Looking around frantically, he then realized it wasn't just one but several more, and quite a few of them. Dolender didn't think much and immediately lunged with his sword towards the monsters. Wasn't he amazing? He single-handedly took on the entire monster formation, not afraid of anyone. Skill, B rank, full wind slash. Indeed, Dolender's form was still displayed exceptionally well. He swept past them like a lightning bolt and annihilated them all. Even with depleted HP, he was more than capable of dealing with this bunch. However, on Carl's side, things were extremely unstable because he was about to be pounced on by a monster. His face was now filled with fear as he continuously fled from the monsters. Even Dolender was nervously waiting to see what would happen next. Will he make a move? If so, I can gather combat intelligence on him. Who would have thought Carl would actually run and cling to Dolender, crying for help, leaving him frozen on the spot? However, while they were having their intimate moment, a monster couldn't wait any longer and lunged towards them. Because he still cherished his life dearly, Carl leaned over and powerfully struck the monster, splitting it in two. The next second, an explosion also occurred, causing that monster to be blown to bits before it could do anything to them. Witnessing Carl's display, Dolender couldn't help but judge, what a poor acting performance. Even with so many ferocious monsters, he has no intention of making a move. He's already revealed the confidence of a strong expert deep down. At this moment, Carl was still clinging tightly to Dolender, not letting go, and was extremely impressed by his cool, domineering presence. However, he clearly has an absolute lead in strength, yet he doesn't realize I'm the one who will kill him. He then flashed an incredibly triumphant smile. It seems luck is on my side. Seeing Carl clinging to him like a leech, Dolender couldn't remain silent any longer and requested, "Can you let go? I really can't walk anymore." Hearing that, Carl finally let go. "Sorry." They were now in a vast open wasteland, and Carl was examining the items he had just received. These are things picked up from that obvious field boss earlier. Returning to the earlier situation, the two of them were discussing what to do with her two halves. You don't want the corpse. NPCs not picking up monster corpses is a principle. Hearing that, Carl turned to Dolender and suggested, "Then can I have it?" Not knowing why Carl needed it. Dolender eventually agreed. Then Carl didn't hesitate any longer and gleefully took out a piece of clothing. "Thank you, big brother, I won't be polite then." Seeing Dolender's green-faced expression towards him, Carl turned back and asked, "This is divine equipment, you don't want it either." He unhesitatingly shook his head vigorously, refusing. "Of course not." Hearing that, Carl continued to busy himself with his task. "Great big brother is so good. However, a regrettable thing happened. My account is bugged, so I can't wear it." But then something else caught his attention. It's unknown what Carl had just found, but it seemed quite interesting, so he waved Dolender over to take a look together. Then they both read a book with content that was bait for the Demon Lord. Contrary to Carl, who was deeply engrossed in the book, Dolender couldn't understand a single word. "Filthy demon tribe, we absolutely cannot let the world fall into their hands." Although Carl was still safe and sound and had even received items, he wasn't very happy. One person picking up all the items from a high-level obvious field boss. If it were someone else, they'd be flying with joy. Every time he remembered how unfairly he was treated, he started to feel sorry for himself. If this kind of luck had been used when creating my account, it would have been great. However, as an optimistic lord, he quickly regained his spirits. Since things have come to this, I should just think about how to survive, and then figure things out. While Carl was peacefully contemplating life, Dolender was surrounded and harassed by several monsters. Truly, the epitome of misfortune, as his HP was already depleted, yet he was still being pestered by monsters all day. Seeing him struggle with them, Carl couldn't help but look with admiration. So handsome. If only I could be as strong as Big Brother one day. After swinging his sword around for a while, Dolender now planted his sword into the ground to catch his breath. He looked like he was about to collapse. "Over there is the safe zone." Hearing that, Carl also looked towards the vast space before him and was a bit awestruck by the place. "That's the safe zone, University City, Jujama A, level 110, peace zone." A long day of fighting to stay alive for them finally ended with them standing before the safe zone. "I thought it was at the ends of the earth, but it's right in front of my eyes." This place turns out to be incredibly familiar to Carl. It's actually my school. After the fierce battle with Dolender, Belian unfortunately had to leave the game early and was brought back by her sisters for worship mourning commemoration. Belian failed and she's dead too. So bad, things are getting serious. They then started to panic about receiving the Demon Lord. "We have to send someone else to receive the Demon Lord." But only Belian saw the Demon Lord's appearance in the prophetic dream. 7 Heavenly Kings, Babylon, level 102, Demon Tribe Leader. Faced with this dire situation, she appeared extremely worried. "If something happens to her, how will we find the Demon Lord?" While they were still in a tangled mess, a voice came from afar. "Don't be afraid." And that person was 7 Heavenly Kings, Mammon level 84, Demon Tribe Leader, S-Rank, Demon Beast. Before Belian left, she gave us a clue. And the clue she was talking about was the drawing of Carl with his captivating lips. "Just by relying on this, we can recognize the Demon Lord." She then also stood up. "You've come at the right time, Mammon." Because she had just joined, she also briefly asked about the situation. How is it now? Based on what she had gathered, Babylon recounted every detail without omission. According to the intelligence demon's report, after killing Belian, Dolender left the Demon Lord's birthplace. He went to the safe zone and even brought another person with him. Indeed, Mammon, with her sharp eyes and keen analytical skills, made an accurate judgment. If so, the person he brought with him might be the Demon Lord. Hearing this, Babylon then took out his portrait. The intelligence demon sent over the appearance of that person. It's unknown what grudge the intelligence demon had against Carl, but they took an unflattering photo of him, making him look worse than Thi No, a famously ugly character in Vietnamese literature. He looks like this. Then Mammon also looked carefully at the picture she provided. However, surprisingly, although both pictures were of the same person, she didn't recognize him. It seems it's not him. Very good, at least it proves the Demon Lord wasn't captured by Dolender and is still safe. Carl's photo now lay discarded in the trash can, while they were urging the search for him. "We can't delay, immediately gather personnel and move out." They were extremely determined to welcome the Demon Lord by any means necessary. We must find the Demon Lord quickly. However, those beautiful girls didn't know that their Demon Lord was now admiring flowers in a safe location. 2 flowers blooming, one on each side. This is the safe zone. So many people. He was also somewhat overwhelmed by the sight of long queues of people as crowded as ants. Now, wherever Carl looked, he only saw people and more people. He felt lost in a vast sea of people. So many people. But what was even more surprising was that Lender still thought Carl was acting. However, he didn't know that Carl was genuinely clueless. This acting is truly God tier, but a self-righteous person like you fundamentally doesn't realize what you're about to face. The place they were standing was, it had to be said, almost absolutely safe. This university city, Ju-Du Ma-A, likely a typo, should be Ju-Jia Ma-A, was a powerful trap. Because it was a safe zone, it received the protection of the gods. There was a buff siphoner system device that could seal the energy of all types of monsters. No matter how strong a monster was, it would be like Banam Trong Hu, a Vietnamese idiom meaning completely helpless, trapped. This was a game rule. A sinister smile appeared on Lender's lips again as he thought of an equally sinister plan. As long as you enter the safe zone, we can control you and kill you. Before anything even happened, he was already thinking about Carl's bloody dark fate. You will die because of your arrogance and ignorance. And I like the prophecy will become the hero leading the players to slay the Demon Lord. However, just as he stepped inside, those blabbermouths wouldn't stop talking, making him almost miss a beat. Aren't you Lord Lender, the hero who will lead everyone to slay the Demon Lord in the prophecy? The NPCs then showered him with endless praise, making him feel as blissful as if he were on cloud 9. I didn't expect Lord Lender with his supreme wisdom to actually come here. It's truly an honor. I heard you went to the Demon Lord's birthplace wanting to kill the Demon Lord in his infancy. May I ask if it was successful? Did you chop that cruel creature into a myriad of pieces? Faced with their loud mouths, he quickly put a finger to his lips, signaling them to keep quiet. Then they also quickly befriended Carl. So this big brother has such a setup. How formidable. Kid, you only know now. Then they turned their hands towards Lender and lightly advertised him to Carl. This is the hope of mankind, Lender. In the prophecy, he is foretold to lead the players to kill the Demon Lord. Suddenly, it didn't stop there. An NPC turned to Lender and reported, Lord Lender, the buff siphoner has been completed in the safe zone. Being someone who couldn't keep his mouth shut if he wasn't talking, Lender continued to chat with Carl. Do you know about the buff siphoner it can seal? At this moment, faced with their loud mouths, he was boiling with anger. Stop forcing the dialogue. He immediately rushed over, grabbed the NPC by the neck, and shook him back and forth several times. Are you trying to get the world destroyed? After being thoroughly scolded by Lender, they couldn't help but feel a little wronged. What did we do wrong? After spending some time with Lender, Carl also greatly admired him. If only I could become a hero too. In his eyes now, Lender was an incredibly wonderful person. Like this big brother, strong and kind. However, Carl didn't know that Lender was secretly planning to send him to meet his ancestors. However, this kind big brother is thinking of killing you. Just one small step further, and Carl would be in danger of losing his head to Lender. Just one step, and it will be the victory of the forces of justice. The next second, everything fell into place. Activate buff siphoner. Finally, their plan had reached its starting point. Feel the mighty power from the system. At this moment, Carl still didn't understand what was happening and looked bewildered. What the power of the system? The two of them were in 2 different spaces separated by a high-tech barrier. However, surprise old man, just when they thought they could eliminate him, there was still no movement at all. Nothing happened. Why? Actually, it wasn't that. Nothing happened. In reality, something did, but it wasn't Carl. It was this building. The buff siphoner began to crack, and the cracks spread everywhere, looking as if it was enduring some terrifying power. Lender then grimaced like a monkey eating chili when he saw the situation wasn't right. Could it be that he's an existence that even the system can't stop? Then things are not looking good. While he was still in extreme confusion, Carl spoke up. So this is the power of the system, huh? Then I'm relieved. But with Doolender's overthinking mind, Carl's words at this moment sounded like a threat. He thought the opponent meant, the safe zone is protected by the system and has absolute immense power. After coming here, you will be safe. Doolender, looking panicked, pressed him, "What do you want to do?" Things now seemed tense. An unexpected event had occurred. Inside University City, Jujia, everyone was still chatting naturally, unaware of what had happened. Suddenly, a sensation shot through them, making them freeze for 5 seconds. A moment later, when everything returned to normal, everyone couldn't help but be surprised. What just happened? Was that an attack? The NPCs, not wanting to alarm everyone, quickly reassured them. "It seems the server lagged. Don't be afraid, everyone, it's just a little lag." Although something had just happened, they weren't too bothered simply because they were being protected. "This is a safe zone. We received the protection of the divine buff siphoner system. As long as you're within its range, it can protect you. It's absolutely safe." An NPC pointed towards the system, but he didn't know that it was now just a distorted mess. Then they turned around and couldn't help but wonder at its strange shape. Did the buff siphoner look like this before? I don't quite remember either. It's a bit strange. However, even though there was something ominous, they still smiled optimistically because they still had Doolender. In short, there's no need to be afraid. Our hope, humanity's highest combat power. Doolender is here. To add more persuasiveness to his words, the NPC then turned towards him and requested, "Lord Doolender, please say a few words to everyone." However, at this moment, to Carl's confusion, Doolender was slumped on the ground, clutching his head in pain. This is too frightening. Recalling the moment Carl had accidentally deformed this system, Doolender couldn't help but feel hopeless. Without saying a word, he dented the system's divine artifact into a heart shape. It's really like he's joking. At this point, everything had completely deviated from his original plan. I thought activating the buff siphoner would allow me to borrow the system's power to subdue him, but life isn't a dream. Instead, he hit me back with a powerful punch, shattering everything into smoke and sending me straight to heaven. It seemed Carl, just by sitting there, was already too much for Doolender to handle. Faced with Carl's extraordinary hidden abilities, Doolender felt like a withered leaf about to collapse. Is this the gap in our strength? Although Doolender hadn't even had a chance to show much, he now felt this mission was too impossible. If not, then surrender. Seeing Doolender looking utterly dejected as if the apocalypse had arrived, Carl also asked with concern, "Lord Doolender, are you okay? I heard it's just lag, nothing serious." However, he didn't know that he himself was the cause of Doolender's dejection. I didn't expect him to be scared like this. How adorable. Carl seemed to really like Doolender. He didn't want to see him sad as a dragonfly anymore, so he encouraged him. "Lord Doolender, please cheer up." Carl, before knowing he was the demon lord, was so kind, comforting him with a bright smile. "You are the hope of mankind. How can you be scared like this? The game has just begun." Hearing this, Doolender also looked up at Carl with a rather surprised expression. Although Carl was genuinely trying to encourage him, Doolender still thought he was the victim being teased. This is just the beginning. The Demon Lord is too outrageous. Where, with his cosmic-level overthinking, Doolender suddenly changed his attitude and harshly asked him, "What do you really want? Say it like a man." Faced with his questioning, Carl looked extremely confused, not knowing what was happening. Me. These two were truly a match made in heaven, always understanding each other in completely different ways. Does he want the mission reward? Just a few simple words of encouragement, and it can move him like this. Lord Doolender is too polite. However, since you've said so, I really... Suddenly, the next second, a BL moment occurred as Carl took his hand, wanting to ask him for a favor. It's unknown where the two of them went after that, but they ended up in a very crowded place. Indeed, if you want to live in the safe zone, you first have to learn some production skills. Contrary to Carl's eager excitement, Doolender looked reluctant and not very happy. Even he was quite surprised by Carl's simple request. I thought he would make some terrifying request, but it turns out he just wants to learn production skills. Suddenly, at this moment, Carl turned to ask him a question with an excited face. Lord Doolender, you're the hero who will lead the players to defeat the Demon Lord, right? Mentioning that he also remembered his childhood dream of wanting to save the world. Actually, I've loved hero stories since I was little. and I often dreamed that when I grew up I would become a hero. Although Carl encountered some trouble at the beginning, he remained extremely optimistic. Because my account is abnormal, I don't know what to do. But since heaven has arranged the storyline for me to meet you, it probably doesn't want me to give up. Therefore, I'm determined not to be discouraged. Even if I have to follow the path of production, I must strive to become a hero. Hearing that, Doolender couldn't help but be dumbfounded, his jaw dropping. Huh. After finishing his story, Carl looked at Doolender with sparkling eyes full of anticipation. Are you willing to guide me? Truly a fool meeting an overthinker. Doolender couldn't help but be wary of Carl's earnestness, thinking he wanted to play him to the end. Although it hadn't even started and they were just getting acquainted, Carl had already received countless scornful remarks from the teachers. Cooking skill instructor Hach Niet. A shorty who doesn't dare to learn combat skills wants to learn production skills. First aid skill instructor Lam Bang Bang, with such looks who would risk fighting monsters anymore. She looked him over for a while, then evaluated him, and the two sides began to exchange words. Lam Bang Bang. I only have this many. Normal players start by planning and saving. They can earn 10 silver coins in a few hours, but this is only enough to learn one basic production skill. Do you think learning production skills can make money? On the contrary, learning production skills is very expensive. After looking at Carl with a disdainful gaze for a while, they now had to widen their eyes at the gold balance in his system, over 10,000 gold. After seeing that he was a true tycoon, Hach Niet also flipped his attitude like flipping a pancake. So it's the boss, my apologies. Lam Bang Bang was no exception, and also flattered him endlessly. For a beginner, the boss has already earned so much money that's really amazing. But we are also NPCs with principles. We won't blindly choose you just because you have money. This is enough to learn skills, but to master them quickly costs a lot. If production skills are not mastered, you can't profit from production. Now that the two worlds have just merged, everyone is a newbie, and there's a severe lack of materials. The necessary materials to upgrade basic production skills are not on the market. Forcibly improving them can only be done by buying from NPCs, like topping up in a game and the price is too high. It's not as good as using money to buy equipment and level up quickly. With so much money, you can choose top-tier equipment for this stage. Although he was given many suggestions, Carl was still a bit hesitant. But I have my own difficulties. Suddenly, Doolender became harsh with him. Is there no other way? Seeing Carl not answering and just staring at him, he also felt extremely annoyed. What are you looking at me for, hateful demon lord? You scared me, humiliated me, and now you want to take my money too. Suddenly, before anyone did anything, he flared up. A scholar can be killed, but not humiliated. I can't be this cowardly. Then he held out a small bag in front of Carl for him to see. I only brought this much when I went out. Because this was money Carl was borrowing when he received the bag, he looked embarrassed. I didn't want to have to beg Lord Doolender for money either. However, the next second they had to hear some shocking news. However, it's still not enough. Seeing that the money was still insufficient, Carl quickly met Doolender's eyes, signaling that he wanted to borrow more money. And Doolender also understood what he wanted, so he began to rummage through his belongings looking for something valuable. Still not enough. Still not enough. But no matter how many things he took out, everything still didn't meet the requirement. At this moment, Doolender himself had been stripped bare like a pupa, leaving only his underwear. Seeing himself literally left with nothing but his shorts, he slammed his fist on a boulder, feeling bitter. Hateful demon lord, just like that you took everything from me. While he was panicking, Hach Niet suddenly reminded him, it's just that it's still not enough. The lowest production skills correspond to at least C-rank combat skills. Practicing in the early stages won't be profitable. Lord Doolender, don't you still have a valuable watch? After venting quite a bit of anger on the walls, Doolender slowly remembered. That was a coming-of-age gift my father gave me. The next second, everyone endlessly discussed how Doolender treated Carl. Why is Lord Doolender treating him so well? It scares me. Could it be that he sees great potential in him? Carl thought. Did I really receive the Lee family's heirloom watch? Does he value me that much? I told him I also wanted to become a hero and asked him to support me, but I didn't expect him to acknowledge me to this extent. At this moment, Doolender felt that this life was truly hateful. This is so touching, it's better to just kill me. The hope of mankind began to thoroughly hate this world. When Du Lender had been stripped of all his money and it still wasn't enough for Carl to learn production skills, Carl also said he'd meet them again on a day not too far off, and then left. Anyway, I'll think of a way for the money. Linda then also gave him a suggestion. If you want to earn money, you can go to the NPC merchant and see. Initial players all earn money by selling props to them. After hearing her guidance, he immediately teleported to the system store's trading center. After entering, that person also placed his items on the table for appraisal. Field Mouse Tail E rank prop, pure value, 3 copper coins 2 to 6 cents. The things he had now were only a few low-rank items. Slime Monster's underwear E rank prop, pure value, 8 copper coins about 7 cents. And for the last item, that person also managed to sell it for a decent amount. Low-rank Skeleton Soldier's pinky finger, D rank prop value, 32 copper coins, $2.8. After appraising all the items brought, the shop owner also praised, "The equipment on you isn't bad." Hearing that, he eagerly asked, "Really, boss? How much can this be sold for?" The boss raised one finger and quoted a price, 1 silver, 20 copper. However, it seemed this number still wasn't enough to satisfy that person. So little. If he was already looking down on it, then there was no need for them to discuss further. See you next time. That person had to leave empty-handed, feeling dejected. Playing for half a day and still can't choose a skill. Just as that person was crying his eyes out, Carl also walked past that spot. If it's this difficult, how are people supposed to play? Witnessing this scene, Carl also sympathized with his current situation. Indeed, no matter how the world changes, the fundamental problem is still money. The next second, Carl was the second customer of the store. "Boss, I have some things I want to sell. Let me put them on the table for you to see." Then Carl neatly arranged everything on the table, and the shop owner began to appraise them. Holy Silver Windblade, selling price 74.8 cents. Dragon Scale Cloak, selling price 48.7 cents. Atlanta Silk Underwear. Lee Family's Heirloom Watch, selling price 141.66 cents. After a quick glance, the shop owner's face turned as horrified as a cow seeing a slaughterhouse, as Carl's items were all top-notch high-quality goods. All S-rank props. Then, looking more closely at the items, he also had a familiar feeling. Moreover, they look familiar. After racking his brain for a moment, he was shocked to his core once again when he realized their origin. They're all Lord Du Lender's equipment, how? But what happened next surprised the shop owner even more, as Carl was about to take out something else. Besides this, there's still more here. Then Carl pulled out a set of sexy lingerie. It's this. This made him wonder, could it also be Lord Du Lender's? If we're talking about being audacious, if Carl was number 2, no one would dare claim number 1, as he went all out and sold Bellion's lingerie. Just one look, and the shop owner was already fond of it. The style is quite good. After putting everything on the table, Carl also asked the shop owner, "Boss, how much do you think these can be sold for?" To avoid any errors during the appraisal, the shop owner also took a few small steps. These two are unverified props. They need to be verified to know their value. Wasting no more time, the shop owner immediately did it to heat things up. Level 99 verification activate. After performing that action, he stood stunned before the result he received. Horn of the Great Demon, selling price 6 gold. Bellion's chest guard, selling price 340 gold. Faced with the nobility and high price of the items, the shop owner's eyes were widened. How can this be? Those who saw their items weren't worth much yet. Carl's items were worth a fortune, so they started to have friction with him. "Boss, are you kidding me? Such a heavy set of armor, you only give 2 silver. Such a light piece of cloth, you tell me it's worth over 300. What do you understand?" The shop owner picked up the lingerie as thin as paper and admired it with an infatuated look. Some outfits, the thinner they are, the more valuable they become. The shop owner couldn't resist bringing the lingerie to his face to smell it. He seemed to have been captivated by the exquisite quality of this lingerie. The shop owner was now as if on cloud 9. This fabric is soft and light as air, and it has this sweet and salty fragrance. Moreover, its Zaquan value increased by 200, and so this lingerie's price kept increasing. Bellion's bra with the rich fragrance of a sexy female demon, selling price 680 gold. Indeed, his infatuation with pretty girls would never end even in his next life. He now regarded it as a precious treasure in his hands. This is an ultra-rare super item. The shop owner then turned to inform Carl of the item's rarity. 680 gold is the selling price to me. This equipment is a graduation outfit. The drop rate is very low. Its actual value is unpredictable. Really, it can be sold for that much. However, contrary to Carl's expectations, the shop owner gave him a piece of advice. However, young man, I advise you not to sell it. If you sell this equipment to me, it's equivalent to the system reclaiming it, and it will no longer exist. Don't sell it. But then Carl checked his system again and found that it seemed he couldn't trade with others anymore. Then the shop owner continued to utter words that hit deep. But you can keep it. Although wearing this outfit looks very perverted, wait until your level is high enough. Wearing it, the improvement it brings, you will be a spectacular leap. You will be an object of admiration for countless people. Visions of the future thus invaded his mind. However, after hearing what the shop owner suggested, it's unknown if Carl understood it, as his face remained blank for a moment. Then Carl, with that expression, slowly walked out of the store. Belian's S-rank chest guard has been sold, reclaimed by the system. 2 horns of the great demon have been sold, reclaimed by the system. And meanwhile, the shop owner was also very bitter. Why would someone sell a graduation outfit to the store? With this sum of 955 gold, Carl was extremely satisfied and flashed a bright smile. At this time, information about the game was also being clarified. In this world fused with the game, the goal of some people was to defeat the final boss and save the world. And of course, not everyone wanted to follow such a path. The goal of some others was to dominate the competition zone to be at the top among players. And there were also those who ignored the bustling world outside and chose a more distant goal for themselves. Another goal was to explore the map, unearthing endless possibilities. Boss only, you are worthy of dealing the final blow to kill the Demon Lord. At this moment, a vision of Carl defeating the Demon Lord appeared. That's right, Gold Squad. The so-called Gold Squad is spending money to find people to lead you through team dungeons. This way, even someone without combat power like me can participate in subjugating the final boss without using a sword. Although he was invited to use a sword to destroy the Demon Lord, Carl was so cool he didn't even need to use it. Just flicking her forehead lightly was enough to send her to meet her ancestors. Achievement unlocked. Savior killed the final boss. The scene where Carl was regarded as a hero by everyone and praised endlessly was his biggest goal. The hero who killed the Demon Lord is Carl. That's right, this is my hero's path. As long as I have money, I can walk the path of a hero. Visions of a bright future pursued by dozens of girls continued to invade his mind. Boss no lord. Carl, my hero, my savior, my idol. He can even possess a large force of underlings willing to go through life and death with him. Boss, you can rest under the tower. We will win. When thinking about the beautiful things awaiting him, the flame of enthusiasm in Carl burned fiercely. Just thinking about it fills me with hope for the future. At this time, he had enough money to go learn skills, and the first job he had to complete was roasting chicken. Here it is. Seeing Carl come out of the kitchen, Hector also inquired about the situation. Carl, how's the progress? Here it is. After seeing he had completed it at this level, he also intended to let him broaden his horizons at a new level. Beginner skills are full. Then the next intermediate stage is truly difficult. Enlighten yourself well. However, Carl walked past him and uttered a sentence that shocked him to the core, leaving him petrified on the spot. It's already at the Grandmaster level. Hector still hadn't processed what he had just said. Grandmaster level! But the next second, when he realized Carl's astonishing leveling speed, he gasped in horror. Is this it? And now the story was just getting interesting, as the Demon Lord, with the goal of defeating himself, began to act. From then on, while strolling down the street, Carl pondered, the mission of NPCs is to support players' growth, and the mission of players is to defeat the final Demon Lord. Surviving in this world is no longer a simple matter. However, contrary to the beginning, his situation now was much better. Being able to start like this is already a blessing in disguise. After the first steps were completed, Carl also began to think about the next important matters. Next is to resolve that important matter. But while Carl was daydreaming, the bus driver started to urge him, "Hey kid, are you getting on or not? I'm driving off." Hearing that, he quickly replied, "Coming." Then Carl, not daring to delay the bus driver any longer, got on the bus. After traveling for some time, he finally set foot in the location he needed. Looking at the luxurious building in front of him, he couldn't help but be awestruck. This is... And the next step Carl would take was to find teammates with similar aspirations to his. Establishing a team. Inside, people were chatting very animatedly. I heard their members are all level 15 already. So high. When Carl went inside, he saw them still discussing. Look at their team's combat power ranking. They almost dominate the top 5. Their teamwork is also very professional. I heard they can already fight monsters above level 6. Really? The team leader seems to have been a professional player before. He seemed very curious about the team with those superhero members from their accounts. Then one of the members of that super strong team revealed himself, Ethan, professional rogue intern, level 16 combat power rank 2. If the supplies have arrived, then let's set off. A girl with short stylish hair standing next to him then offered a suggestion. Fighting over-leveled monsters is too hard. It's better to add one more person to handle it faster. And that person is Luke, sharpshooter intern, level 15 combat power rank 3. What do you think, Captain? However, faced with this opinion, Ethan seemed unwilling to give the green light. Foolish. Adding more people to the team means sharing more experience. While the two of them were disagreeing, another member appeared. Shadow, assassin, intern, hidden level. I've calculated it 4 people is best. Suddenly, he hugged Tia tightly, startling her a bit. Remember, for a professional team, only efficiency is most important. Of course, if any of you drag us down, I'll kick that person out and replace them. Even if it's my own sister, Tia, priestess, level 16, combat power rank 4. Hearing this, she started to feel nervous and replied, I'll try my best, Ethan, please don't kick me out. After that, they didn't discuss it further and set off to hunt their next prey. All right, let's risk it and show what we've got. Okay, let's go. However, just as Ethan was about to leave, he paused when he saw a notification. It turned out that the notification was about Carl wanting to join his team. But perhaps Carl's face looked too naive and unreliable, so Ethan didn't hesitate to reject him outright. Where did this idiot come from wanting to latch on to me? Although he had pressed reject the next second, the notification of Carl requesting to join appeared again. At this point, Ethan started to feel extremely annoyed by Carl's persistent pestering. This is getting a bit troublesome. Then he didn't hesitate to reject Carl again. It was truly a case of an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. However many times Ethan pressed reject, Carl sent that many join requests. But no matter how hard Carl tried or what tricks he used, Ethan would only refuse. Scared the hell out of me, yet he doesn't even have a shred of insight. Ethan stood firm in his stance, no new members. Reject, reject, reject. Seeing that joining Ethan's team was too difficult, Carl shifted his focus to wanting to trade with him. At this point, Ethan was a bit curious. He wants to trade with me, because Ethan was also a little curious about what Carl would do this time. He finally agreed. Let's see what tricks you want to pull. After he pressed confirm, a huge notification board appeared in front of him again. Who would have thought that Tycoon Carl would play big and give Ethan a whole pile of gold coins? The other party has given you 10 gold, the other party has confirmed. Faced with the enormous amount of money Carl was willing to spend, it also shocked him to the core, unable to believe his eyes. Damn it, 10 gold? Really, how is this possible? As someone who loved money more than his next life, Ethan was as happy as if he had just won the lottery. With his superb resource calculation, he had only managed to gather a total of 2 gold and 57 silver. How can someone have 10 gold now and furthermore intend to give it to me? Faced with this windfall, he also spent some time pondering. In this era, at low levels because of the lack of resources, learning combat skills requires careful calculation. Only important skills need to be prioritized. 10 gold is enough to learn all current combat skills and even craft a complete set of equipment. Ethan himself already possessed formidable strength, and now if he could learn all the skills, it would be no different from him soon becoming invincible. Even now, Ethan couldn't understand what reason had made Carl spend so lavishly. The leveling speed could be 5 times faster now, so why would someone willingly give me 10 gold for free? But then he realized something incredibly surreal. No, what's even stranger is how can there be someone in this world who has 10 gold? Is he the #1 ranked player? His face also began to sweat profusely. Or is it some kind of joke? Should I refuse or accept? However, after a period of doubting his life and internal struggle, Ethan decisively pressed the confirm button. This is 10 gold, how could I refuse? And after Ethan pressed it, Carl truly wasn't bluffing and immediately transferred 10 gold to him. When he actually received the money, Ethan couldn't help but squirm in a bewildered way. There's really an idiot who gave me 10 gold. But while he was still reveling in the 10 gold, Carl's join request notification appeared once again. Seeing Carl's notification, he had already started to have a completely different view of Carl. Afterward, they finally had a private meeting with Carl to discuss matters. Carl, you said you want to hire us to take you to your first home to retrieve something important, right? That's right. Then Carl also recounted his current difficult situation. I asked the guards there. The place is now occupied by level 18 water rats. I really can't go alone. I can only hire people to take me. However, the next second, Luke's answer also startled him. Don't joke around. We still have to climb the ranks. What time do we have to do such a kind deed? But at this moment, Ethan had been blinded by gold and immediately transformed into a Hollywood actor playing a sympathetic role. Since when did you become so heartless? The next second, he was no longer the blunt Ethan, but had become the fairy Ethan. I accept this job from you. Remember, for a professional team to go further, compassion is most important. We accept this commission. Faced with his drastic change of tune, Luke was also stunned, not knowing what wrong medicine he had taken. Who are you? After a long day, night finally enveloped the space, leaving only the light of the stars. Inside the team formation hall, Ethan's group was still discussing Carl's morning affair. Luke still didn't understand why Ethan had made such a baffling decision, so he pressed him, Captain, our team's progress is currently ranked at the top. How can we go do such a trivial task? Seeing her questioning, Ethan didn't hesitate to show Luke his balance. Look at this first, then talk. Looking at the 12 gold, she couldn't help but be amazed. How do you have so much money? At this moment, a new suspicion arose in Luke. Could it be that weak-looking Shorty gave you all his gold, which also means he has something he's willing to spend 10 gold to retrieve a treasure? Seeing that she understood the issue, Ethan confirmed. That's right. Ethan's face suddenly became sinister and extremely cunning. Indeed, he accepted this job to profit himself. It must be an amazing treasure. Meanwhile, Tia also overheard their conversation and ran over to ask, Wait, you want to rob him of his treasure? With a face thicker than a 1,000-layer pancake, he confirmed, The value of that treasure is definitely more than 10 gold. If we get it, our combat power will surely skyrocket. Who would have thought he had even more malicious intentions to prevent being backstabbed? I've also prepared to kill him. No one would object to such a good thing as taking advantage of this right. I have no objection. Seeing that no one else had any objections, Ethan then noticed Shadow's absence. Where is she? At this moment, she was standing on a lamppost, and she herself had nothing to discuss about this matter. Winning is all that matters. As a person with a kind heart, Tia then spoke up, I have an opinion. But Ethan just threw a bucket of cold water on her and turned away. No one cares. Seeing herself being completely ignored, she also felt extremely wronged but could do nothing. After finalizing this plan, Ethan didn't want to delay any longer and set off. Then let's go. Ethan's face now clearly showed his inhumanity and cunning. Let's hunt. Then, according to the plan, they escorted Carl to the place he needed to go. On the way, there were countless water rats occupying the area, but they were quickly eliminated by them. Everyone was now standing in front of an old apartment building, and then Luke turned back to confirm, Boss, is this the place? Yes, yes. Seeing that he had finally returned home, Carl's face couldn't hide his joy. I live on the 6th floor of this apartment building. Hearing this, Ethan also feigned kindness to reassure him. Then it's good. You can rest assured. Although the monsters here are all level 18, our team is a professional team, so we will definitely protect you safely. Then Ethan was also sandwiched between them, gradually moving deeper into the apartment building. Although he was in the safest position, his face couldn't help but turn pale with fear. However, while walking, Tia also had a bad feeling and informed Ethan, something's not quite right here. Legion apartment level 25 dungeon. She then expressed her strange feeling. Since stepping into this building, I've had an eerie feeling. Faced with this gloomy place lurking with unforeseeable dangers, Tia seemed unwilling to proceed further. If not, then let's forget it. But Ethan just looked at her with an ice-cold gaze. Are you saying you know how to play the game better than me? He just ignored her and continued forward. If you don't understand anything, then shut up and obediently follow. If you annoy me, you can die here alone. As Carl's feet stepped, his mouth counted 606. We're here. This is the place. After reaching his old home, he turned to thank everyone. Thank you. You guys are truly too reliable. At this moment, Ethan also grinned broadly, just waiting for Carl to retrieve the treasure, and then he would send him to heaven. Not at all, boss. Go get your things quickly. Then Carl slowly took out the key and inserted it into the lock. While Carl was about to open the door and step inside, Ethan quickly jumped into the air, intending to stab him with a fatal blow from behind. But it wasn't that easy to get a free meal. He hadn't even touched a hair on Carl when a giant mutated sewer rat, level 22, suddenly appeared. Surprise, old man. Because everything happened too suddenly, Ethan couldn't react in time. What? The rat rushed towards them at an incredible speed and then crashed into them with an earth-shattering force. But they were still protected by their ancestors, so luckily, they escaped this calamity. Get out of the way quickly. He couldn't help but be very puzzled when confronting a high-level monster here. Why would a level 22 monster appear in this place? Immediately after that blow, he turned to ask about everyone's situation. Did everyone manage to dodge? Everyone was still safe and sound, not a scratch on them. However, what was more worrying was that Carl had vanished. Where's the boss? Then they looked down at the hole below them and indeed saw Carl free-falling downwards. Faced with this sight, everyone froze for 5 seconds, not knowing what to do next. However, being a shameless scoundrel, Ethan not only didn't save him, but instead sat there laughing with delight. He's done for. The boss fell down. At that moment during this critical juncture, Shadow made an unexpected decision. I'm going to save him. As soon as she finished speaking, she vanished without a trace. Meanwhile, the rat was right next to them, ready to attack at any moment. Faced with Shadow's action, Ethan just felt it was unnecessary. There's no need. Suddenly looking at Luke's face, he also saw her extreme tension. Captain, we're in big trouble. And the reason she said that was because the three of them now had to face a threat from that high-level mutated sewer rat. Previously, however confident and aggressive Ethan had been, now facing a monster of a higher level than himself, he was just as timid. Why would a level 22 A-rank monster appear here? The two of them in this situation also tried to analyze their chances of winning. Normally, a well-coordinated team of 3 players can barely kill an A-rank monster of the same level, so it's 6 levels higher than us. Do we even have a chance? Although even Luke wasn't sure if they could gain the upper hand in this battle, she was ready to give up. Even though the treasure is right in front of us, there's a chance, but the risk is too great. The treasure is right before our eyes. We've wasted so much time, yet we have no harvest. It wasn't easy to accumulate our leading position. I'm afraid it's about to be in danger. Then, to ensure the safety of the entire team, she turned and suggested to Ethan, we can only cut our losses. Let's retreat. However, at that moment he was still intently analyzing the situation. Observing the situation again, this monster is a bit off. From what he could see, this rat kept looking left and right as if searching for something instead of focusing on attacking them. Suddenly, the next second, it shrieked as if it had just sniffed something out. It's the Demon Lord. I smell the Demon Lord's scent. Indeed, Carl was the most sought-after person at this moment. With his undiscovered Demon Lord identity, wherever he went, he was sought after. Demon Lord, where are you? Then it also poked its head down the hole below, searching for his figure. The Demon Lord fell down. Faced with the rat's panic, Carl was still free-falling. Logically, he should have been terrified at this moment, but instead, he was unusually calm. Am I about to die? Since I'm a relaxed guy, I view meeting death as a very light matter. If I die, there will probably be some kind of system awakening, right? That's how it's written in all the novels. After free-falling for a while, Carl's bottom finally hit the ground. However, with his Demon Lord identity, not only did he not kick the bucket, but he instead received an awesome title, Youth Who Slipped and Fell from a height of 20 meters without dying. Not only did he not die, but he also felt no pain. Although he was safe and sound after this fall, one problem he had to face was how to survive in this dangerously lurking place. What should I do now? As an optimistic lord, he didn't feel too worried and calmly sat there waiting for everyone to come to his aid. If not, I can just wait for those masters to come save me. Meanwhile, many rats were rushing towards Carl, and of course not for the purpose of attacking, but for the purpose of affection. However, before they could fly towards him, they were wiped out by some force. While Carl still hadn't understood what was happening, he turned around and saw a pile of dead rats. Perhaps misunderstanding their intentions, as malicious Shadow had stepped in to send them off. "Don't be afraid." Although on the surface he asked with a cold attitude, the truth was Carl was scared stiff. "Who?" Shadow no longer stayed in the darkness, but slowly walked towards the light, appearing before Carl. It seemed Shadow still had good intentions of wanting to keep him alive. "It's dangerous nearby, be careful." After instructing him, she also walked to a transparent wall and placed her hand on it. "It's an air wall. We can't go up from here." Even Carl didn't expect it to be so real. Seeing that this method didn't seem feasible, Shadow began to look for another way. "It seems we can only find another way back." At this moment, Carl also pointed towards the distance. "How about the stairs over there?" Seeing that the direction Carl had just pointed out was reasonable, she immediately requested him to lead the way. Faced with this task, he seemed a bit surprised. "Me lead the way? Am I not the boss?" Faced with Carl's reluctance, Shadow just stood there, speechless. Perhaps that moment was for her to think about what to say to convince him. The next second, Shadow put on a pouting face. "What, you want an assassin from the Shadow Order to walk in front? Then it won't have that mysterious feeling. Romantic setup, you understand?" "I don't understand what you're saying." "I don't understand." However, after some back and forth, Carl finally reluctantly agreed. "Forget it. As long as you protect me, it's fine." Shadow was still behind him, watching over him. "Don't worry." Following behind Carl, Shadow couldn't help but judge. Men are such foolish creatures. As long as I act a little pitiful, he won't be on guard and will expose his back to me. At this moment, faced with Carl's naive demeanor, she couldn't help but find it humorous when thinking about that scene. Before he blames me, if he knew our real purpose was to seize his treasure, he would definitely regret it, right? Just as Carl realized something and was about to turn around to inform Shadow, she had already activated her backstabbing skill, preparing to send him to get his free meal. Carl must have been a superhero who saved the world in his previous life to be this lucky in this life. He was about to turn around to give Shadow the chicken, but she stabbed straight into the chicken instead. Because she was in the motion of stabbing him, Shadow also felt something was off here. Using a roasted chicken to block my fatal blow. What is this I don't understand? Then Carl also explained his actions. Before, when I learned advanced skills, I made a lot. You haven't fully recovered your health, so I wanted to give you this to eat. It can restore a bit. Then Carl looked down at the dagger in her hand and asked a question that stunned Shadow. Is this dagger of yours for eating chicken? At that moment, he had only asked Shadow, not yet done or said anything to her. Yet she already felt guilty and ran away as fast as she could. Suddenly being invited to eat chicken by him, Shadow couldn't help but doubt her life. This isn't right. This man isn't right. He looks like just a very weak shorty, but he can spend 10 gold coins and also possesses cooking skills. She still couldn't forget the moment Carl had used that roasted chicken as an absolute defense shield. A roasted chicken can be used as a shield to completely block my attack. Shadow began to feel suspicious about his true combat ability. That strike of mine, even a level 16 warrior using a shield to defend wouldn't have escaped without any injuries. At this moment, she also erected a wall of suspicion between herself and Carl. This man must be hiding some huge secret. I have to be careful. That chicken must have some kind of poison on it. She had found another one of Dolender's kind, as Shadow was overthinking no less than him. After eating that poison, I'll be completely controlled and become a puppet. Once eaten, it's irreversible. I absolutely cannot eat it. Her mouth could refuse, but Shadow's bottomless stomach couldn't resist the allure of the roasted chicken. Delicious, isn't it? By the time she realized she had already eaten it, it was too late because the roasted chicken had completely disappeared into Shadow's stomach. Damn it! Because it was too fragrant, I couldn't resist it for a moment. After putting the roasted chicken into her stomach, its delicious taste still lingered on her tongue. At this moment, an incredibly refreshing feeling, as if she were on cloud 9, overwhelmed Shadow. Truly, the fastest way to conquer a person is through their stomach. Before she knew it, she already felt her body brimming with strength. Profession advanced from junior assassin to assassin. Who would have thought Carl's roasted chicken was so top tier that just eating a little was enough to level up? At this moment, Shadow held the chicken in her hand and looked at it with an appreciative gaze. This roasted chicken not only made me level up 5 times consecutively, but also upgraded all my skills and even made me directly complete my profession advancement. Now Shadow had also changed her view of this magical roasted chicken. Is this roasted chicken? It's clearly a repair machine. She looked at Carl's expectant face and couldn't help but ponder, I am a professional assassin. I've sworn to seek out the strongest players. Wouldn't someone possessing such power be much stronger than that idiot Ethan? After eating Carl's roasted chicken, Shadow also rated him higher than Ethan. One Carl now could be equal to several Ethans. After making a simple comparison, Shadow immediately bowed deeply, startling him. From now on, I am yours. You can ask me to do anything. Suddenly like this. He thought Carl would be happy with this, but no, on the contrary, Carl felt terrified, completely thinking the other party was some kind of fool. Faced with her enthusiasm for him, Carl just smiled wryly. I don't intend for you to repay me. As long as you protect me, it's fine. If I don't have full health, how can I protect you? Protect you. At this moment, Carl gently turned around and reminded Shadow. Anyway, I'm the boss who paid. At this point, it seemed Shadow was enlightened and realized some truth, and she stood there staring blankly at him without blinking. Then Shadow just remained silent without uttering another word while Carl continued to move forward. Surprise old man. Who would have thought that just a moment ago Shadow had intended to assassinate him, but now she had become infatuated with Carl. I understand. I will protect you, Lord Carl. While Shadow and Carl were finding a way out of this place, Ethan's group was still struggling with that sewer rat. Giant mutated sewer rat sneak attacked. Giant mutated sewer rat falls down. It was beaten so badly by him that blood spurted from everywhere. He thought Ethan would be sent to his grave by the higher-level sewer rat monster. But the truth was the opposite, because the sewer rat had now lost its will to fight. Giant mutated sewer rat doesn't want to get up. To have accidentally injured the demon lord, I don't deserve to live in this world anymore. Because it had previously created a hole and accidentally caused Carl to fall down, it now chose death to atone for its sin in exchange for inner peace. Even Ethan couldn't understand the surreal scene before his eyes. Killed with one stab. Tia, who was initially afraid they would all die, there was also surprised that they had won. We actually did it. It was clear that the sewer rat had bitten its tongue and committed suicide, but she mistakenly thought Ethan had sent it to its grave. Surpassing 6 levels to kill an A-rank monster is this Ethan's true strength. After hitting the sewer rat a few times without any effect, Ethan had actually unlocked the title Peerless Expert. Condition surpass 5 levels to kill an elite monster. This guy was truly lucky beyond words, as this threat ultimately turned into an opportunity for him to level up. Equip legendary title Peerless Expert, confirm. Then Ethan's strength was buffed considerably, making him as happy as a festival. I didn't expect to obtain such an unexpected top-tier item. Could it be that I'm the main character, awakening some super strong special ability? Although they were safe now, Tia was still nervous and fearful. This can't be right. This place is too strange. I have a very uncomfortable feeling. Baseless worries. After being upgraded to a new peak, Ethan now began to become arrogant. I'm already a peerless expert, a man who can kill a level 22 monster with one hit. What is there for me to be afraid of? However, while he was being complacent, Tia shouted, Ethan, look quickly! Contrary to Tia's horrified face, Ethan appeared very calm. Ah, look at what, there's nothing there. You're looking in the wrong direction behind you. Then he also turned around and surprised old man. Now, a ferocious orange cat was standing right in front of him. The cat, with a temper as hot as fire, didn't let him react and struck him hard. The next second, Ethan was thrown straight into a wall with an earth-shattering impact. The wall now had a large hole offering a panoramic view of the city at night. Even now, Ethan was still dumbfounded. I didn't expect to be beaten so miserably. How can this be evil meow A-rank monster level 35? Previously, Tia had warned him, but he still ignored her, and now he had to face a beast almost twice as strong as the sewer rat. How can it be a commander-level monster? It seemed very angry at being disturbed by their group and continuously attacked them. Evil Meow activates skill, Yawn level 1. Evil Meow simply yawned, yet it emitted circles of energy waves into the air. At that moment, affected by this shockwave, Tia also fell to another place separated from Ethan. Who would have thought the person sitting next to her now was Luke? Human strength is limited, so she was probably too tired to stand up now. Then Tia also had a guess. Why a commander-level monster? It should only be those obvious field bosses entering the dungeon, right? Could it be? So this was the reason why Tia had a bad feeling since stepping in here. After entering this building, I felt something was wrong because this place has turned into a dungeon, right? Everyone now started to panic when they belatedly realized the truth. So that's why a level 22 elite monster appeared here. What do we do now? Ethan had also appeared now, holding a plus 50 HP newbie health potion in his hand. I'll lure the monster, then find a chance to retreat. However, he had only just said it and hadn't even made a move when Evil Meow appeared once again. And then with its sharp claws, it swiped at Ethan. Its paw had already touched his face at an incredibly fast speed. The next second, Ethan was thrown out of the building once again. Seeing his HP about to be depleted from fighting Evil Meow, he then called out for help. Fool, support me quickly. Okay. Tia, hearing this, couldn't sit still any longer and immediately created a magic circle to restore his HP. Realizing that just defending like this wasn't a good idea, Ethan began to change his fighting style. I have to switch to a counter-attacking stance. However, the next second, while he still hadn't recovered, Evil Meow appeared before him like a ghost. Previously, however aggressive Ethan was, now he was just as comical as he had become the cat's entertainment. Evil Meow was so strong it didn't even need to exert effort to fight him. Just toying with Ethan was enough to make him a laughingstock. Ethan's face was beaten so much that it swelled up into a large lump and became deformed. That peerless expert. Although he had been instantly defeated by Evil Meow, he was still very attached to that title of his. Seeing his HP now completely depleted without a single drop left, he also gave up and said to Tia, "Don't buff anymore, let me die." Faced with this life-or-death situation, Luke couldn't sit still any longer. We're done for a level 35 commander monster. Even 5 players of the same level might not be able to win. Hearing this, Tia also anxiously turned her head and requested, "Okay then, let's quickly cover Ethan's retreat." However, Tia had just turned her head when she saw Luke had already teleported to a building far, far away. She ran so far already, surprise old lady. She had actually turned her back on her teammates to save her own life first. Sorry, you two. We originally formed a team on a whim. It's not suitable for us to live and die together. Tia, left alone in this situation, couldn't help but feel wronged and scared. Although it's very reasonable, it's still too much. Even though Ethan was already playing dead, he couldn't escape its sharp claws. Tia turned back and saw he was really about to meet his maker, and she shrieked in panic, "Ethan!" Suddenly, in that moment of life and death, someone opened the door and walked in. And that person was none other than Carl. As soon as he saw Evil Meow, he called out, "Bow Bow!" a cute pet name. To their utter astonishment, as soon as it saw Carl appear, it immediately flew towards him, completely ignoring Ethan. Contrary to its ferocious and dangerous appearance from before, Bow Bow now became an adorable, well-behaved cat. Carl received Carl's pet Bow Bow level 1. So this was his pet cat. It obediently lay down in his arms. That's great. You're okay, little one. You must have been scared, right? Seeing Carl cuddling it in his arms as if nothing had happened, Tia and Ethan were now completely frozen. How could they know the scene where Bow Bow almost logged them out for good? However, Bow Bow was only Carl's pet. It still glared at them as usual. At this moment, Tia and Ethan were also so shocked they were speechless when they realized a mind-blowing truth. The dungeon commander is his pet. In the kitchen, Carl reached up high trying to get cat food. Soup, canned food, food set. Who finished all the cat food? Behind him, Ethan put his arm around Tia's shoulder and smiled. Although things developed beyond my imagination, luckily we were saved. This guy looks like a weak shorty, but I didn't expect he could make the dungeon commander his pet. He must have a secret definitely more valuable than I imagined. If we let him live, we can exploit all the benefits. Then he glanced at the 2 people beside him, smiled arrogantly, and said, "Shadow, you did well." Not only that, Ethan then glanced at Luke and hinted, "You, unlike someone else, are my most trustworthy companion." She heard this, turned her head away, and pretended to ignore him. He continued to ask, "Come here. How about a hug from a peerless expert as a reward?" Hearing the shadow standing nearby, her eyes gradually darkened. Seeing her slowly approaching him, Ethan said, "Good girl. Don't worry as long as you continue to follow me. We'll still be the strongest team." But unexpectedly, Shadow suddenly lunged forward, holding a knife attacking Ethan and Luke. The two of them immediately fell to the ground, blood spurting from their stomachs. Shadow glanced at their extremely angry expressions and said, "You still dare to have designs on Lord Carl? Truly death isn't enough to atone for your sins?" Ethan, surprised, lay on the ground and asked in confusion, "Shadow, what are you doing?" To his question, she looked up with an extremely angry expression and said, "You still dare to ask?" Then she immediately rushed forward and stabbed them 2 more times. Tia, standing nearby, shouted in panic, "Captain!" After attacking for a while, Shadow raised her head, her eyes filled with killing intent. "You have no idea what kind of existence you've offended." At this moment, from behind, Carl and his cat walked over and said, "I've got my things. We can go back now." As soon as she saw him, Shadow's eyes immediately lit up. "This is..." Hearing this, Carl glanced at the cat on his shoulder and said, "It's the cat I raised. Before the world became like this, I wasn't by its side, so now no matter what, I wanted to find it. That cat's name is Carl's nickname, Cat Butler." Shadow looked at the cat and said, "So the treasure was actually..." Realizing something, Shadow immediately bowed and exclaimed, "I understand. From now on, we are colleagues." Her action made him exclaim in surprised shock, "Colleagues?" He walked forward, looked at her with a forced smile and said, "If your foolishness is too severe, you should still go get treatment. Anyway, let's go back to the city first." Taking another step forward, his foot suddenly touched a pool of blood on the ground. In front of Carl was the image of Ethan and Luke lying motionless on the ground. As soon as he saw the scene before him, his expression immediately froze, speechless. After a few seconds, he finally realized the situation happening in front of him and exclaimed in panic, "What happened?" Hearing this, Shadow approached, gently placed her hand on her chest, looked at him and explained, "I saw they were seriously injured and couldn't be saved, so I wanted to help them end their pain faster." Hearing this immediately made Carl exclaim in panic, "Huh?" Seeing this, Ethan looked at her with great indignation. "With 2/3 of my health left, what serious injury?" Hearing this, she glanced at Ethan and Luke contemptuously and said, "But your guts are spilling out now." To her words, Ethan immediately sat up and cursed loudly, "You're the one who stabbed us, okay?" Seeing this, she immediately pretended to put her hand on her forehead wearily and exclaimed, "Too bad. It's hopeless." Seeing this, Ethan then shouted, "We can still be saved." Tia, sitting nearby, was trying her best to deploy magic to save them. "I really can't buff anymore." Seeing the situation becoming increasingly unfavorable made her exclaim in worry, "He's losing blood too fast, I can't buff anymore." Carl asked in confusion, "Why is it like this?" Shadow, standing beside them, covered her mouth and smiled smugly. Ethan's face was now gradually turning pale, his expression horrifyingly wan. His eyes were sad as he exclaimed, "A level 22 elite didn't kill me. A level 35 dungeon commander also didn't kill me. Me, ranked 2nd on the human leaderboard, have to die such an unjust death." Stabbed by a teammate. Then he remembered the scene of Shadow standing in front of him with a knife and saying, "You don't know what kind of existence you've offended." His expression became increasingly desperate, and he slowly accepted that he couldn't be saved. "This is really life-threatening. If you're not careful, you'll step on a mine. But things have come to this point, regretting my own ignorance. It's already too late." But in the midst of despair, Carl's voice suddenly rang out, "Maybe I can try." At that moment, it made everyone exclaim in constant surprise, "Try what?" He held the roll of bandages in his hand and said, "Maybe I can still save them." That roll of bandages was Demon Pattern Bandage, A rank prop. Usage condition requires first aid skill, 750. Effect recovers 36 to 500 HP within 8 seconds. As soon as they saw that roll of bandages, Ethan and Luke's expressions couldn't help but show astonishment, and they exclaimed one after another, "That's actually a bandage made by the first aid skill, and it's the highest grade demon pattern bandage." First aid skill is the most expensive production skill to level up in the early stages. That's the skill to turn fabric into bandages. In the low to mid levels, a V1 level 45 bandages healing ability can be compared to 5 healing professions of the same level using their abilities at maximum burst. And demon pattern bandages can even directly fully buff a level 80 defensive warrior. But because fabric is very scarce in the early period, no one will spend resources to level up the first aid skill, and no one can afford it. Faced with their astonished gazes, Carl held the roll of bandages in his hand, smiled brightly, and explained, "Because I'm not good at anything to survive in this world, stopping bleeding is the most important. So I leveled up the first aid skill first. I didn't expect it to be useful now. It's really great." He looked at them, exclaiming happily. But contrary to his joy, shadow behind him suddenly became silent, an incredibly heavy aura emanating around her. Ethan shut his mouth, his eyes wide as he glanced at Carl, cold sweat continuously dripping down his face. In Ethan's mind, he thought in horror, he can casually give away 10 gold coins, can make the dungeon commander his pet, and also has a Grandmaster level first aid skill. An existence like this, and I still dared to have ill intentions. He must also think I'm an idiot, right? The more he thought, the more panicked his eyes became. Shadow suddenly stepped closer and exclaimed, but immediately after she looked at them with an extremely amused expression. "So that's how it is. Heal them first, then kill them again. Understood." In her mind, she thought, as expected of Lord Carl, so many tricks. Her somewhat bizarre expression made Ethan and Luke break out in a cold sweat from fear. Their faces immediately turned pale. Ethan looked at Carl and exclaimed in panic, Or maybe don't save us anymore." But at this moment, Carl suddenly sat down, held the roll of bandages in front of them, and said, "All right, use it quickly." His action deeply moved Ethan. He looked at Carl, his eyes welling up, and hesitated. But this is a demon pattern bandage. Are we worthy before I clearly still—" As if understanding his thoughts, Carl became extremely angry and shouted, "Stop saying such foolish things! In this world, is there anything more precious than human life, more important than human life?" As soon as he finished speaking, it deeply moved Ethan. Tears streamed down his face. "Boss, from now on, you are my reborn parents." The system interface suddenly opened, greatly surprising Carl. On the system interface, the words, "The other party requests to trade with you," appeared. After reading it, he gently clutched his bag and said shyly, "Originally, I didn't want to collect money, but since you guys insisted, I won't refuse." As soon as he finished speaking, Ethan and Luke immediately froze like statues, staring dumbfounded at Carl. And Carl at this moment laughed heartily with great joy. System notification. Ethan lost 12 gold, 52 silver, remaining 0. Luke lost 82 silver, remaining 0. Carl received 13 gold, 34 silver. He held the roll of bandages in his hand, looked at them, and replied firmly, "Rest assured, since I've collected the money, I will definitely not let you die." The system's voice rang out, using demon pattern bandage on Ethan. Immediately after the bandage wrapped around Ethan's body, his eyes immediately lit up and his wounds were gradually healing. While being treated, he couldn't help but feel joyful and think to himself, "This bandage not only heals my wounds, but also heals my dirty and twisted soul. It's warm, truly so warm." But at this moment, the system interface appeared, shattering their joy. "Friendly reminder, he has taken all your money." The eyes of all three immediately became stunned. But just a moment later, Ethan immediately dismissed the system's notification and exclaimed happily, "That is our good fortune." Then, under the feet of all three, a brilliant golden energy radiated upwards, enveloping Luke, Ethan, and Tia. They were successively promoted level 15 to 20, profession advanced from sharpshooter intern to sharpshooter. Level 16 to 21, profession advanced from rogue intern to rogue. Level 15 to 20, profession advanced from priestess intern to priestess. Feeling the new energy in their bodies made them exclaim in amazement, not only healed but also leveled up new level and body. After just a few seconds, they immediately grasped the crux of the matter. Their expressions couldn't help but show astonishment as they simultaneously thought, "No, this is absolutely a repair machine disguised as a demon pattern bandage, right?" Immediately, all three of them knelt down before Carl, bowed their heads in the highest human salute, and expressed their gratitude. "Thank you, boss. From now on, you are my big brother. I, Ethan, will go through mountains of daggers and seas of fire for you." Seeing this, Carl raised his hand shyly and exclaimed, "No need, no need. It's just a life-saving grace. No need for such a grand ceremony. Just remember it in your heart. Each demon pattern bandage is 30 gold. Remember to pay back the remaining amount. The interest rate will be 35% per year as agreed, okay. Shadow, standing nearby, silently glanced at him. Then she gently covered her face, exclaiming in admiration. So that's how it is. Completely destroy them by lending at exorbitant rates. Such a dirty trick. Is this a true master? Lord Carl really plays differently. Their group walked out of an apartment building together. The system displayed a notification. Your team has cleared the Lijing apartment dungeon. Received 50,000 system experience points. World system notification. Ethan, Luke, Tia, Shadow, Carl cleared Lijing apartment. They looked up, listening intently, their expressions filled with surprise. Not only them, but countless other players also stood simultaneously before a large door. The system displayed a notification. Ethan, Luke, Tia, Shadow, Carl cleared Lijing apartment, first and only ranking. Everyone present was extremely astonished. Carl stared blankly at the system. After processing it, his expression immediately turned pale, cold sweat continuously dripping down as he exclaimed in panic. What? The place we just entered was a dungeon. Ethan, standing beside him, smiled very calmly and replied, Yes, that's right. What? Hearing this, Carl's body immediately stiffened, trembling uncontrollably, as if he couldn't believe the truth that had just transpired, and he panickedly asked himself, Who am I? Where is this? What did I just go through? Faced with Carl's somewhat exaggerated expression, Ethan, standing nearby, looked at him with a bored expression and thought, Didn't you even keep the dungeon commander as a pet on your head? In the room, Doolender was sitting in front of the computer, leisurely enjoying tea. Suddenly, a system notification rang out. World notification. Ethan, Luke, Tia, Shadow, Carl cleared Lijing apartment. World notification. Ethan, Luke, Tia, Shadow, Carl cleared Lijing apartment. World notification. Ethan, Luke, Tia, Shadow, Carl cleared Lijing apartment. After hearing it, his eyes immediately became stunned and he exclaimed, Huh! The Demon Lord cleared his own home's dungeon. At University City, Jujiama a reporter looked at their group and exclaimed excitedly, They're back! They're back! Carl and his teammates walked calmly through the crowd. Everyone around couldn't stop admiring and discussing. Oh my god, is that the first team to clear the dungeon? Did they clear a dungeon 10 levels above them? Faced with everyone's praise, Carl was extremely embarrassed. He raised his hand to his face, smiled shyly and replied, No, I'm just the boss. I was carried. Ethan walked proudly, glancing around. Shadow observed with a constantly judging gaze, while Tia was extremely timid, bowing her head, very embarrassed. To Carl's humble reply, everyone around exclaimed, How could they do this? Suddenly, at this moment, a young man pointed at Ethan and exclaimed, It's Ethan! They followed his figure, praising endlessly. Isn't that the professional gamer who once dominated countless MMORPGs? No wonder. Not only those two young men, the surrounding crowd also continuously cheered. Look at the top of his head. It's the title Peerless Expert, as expected of the WCG champion. No wonder he could clear the dungeon. Faced with this praise, Ethan proudly raised his head. He flicked his hair back and replied arrogantly, Consider yourselves somewhat knowledgeable. However, being able to clear the dungeon is not only my credit, but also thanks to my big brother, who is this person right here. Suddenly from the front, a voice rang out. Congratulations to you all. After hearing it, they all immediately stopped and looked towards where the voice came from. Shadow turned her head towards Carl and asked curiously, Who is that? That's Doolender. He blocked their path, panting tiredly. As soon as they saw him, their group couldn't help but exclaim in surprise, Doolender! His face was pale, cold sweat continuously dripping down as he looked at their group, thinking to himself, Too dangerous. They almost revealed it. If the Demon Lord's disguise is broken, everyone here will be silenced. After resting, Doolender stood up straight, his demeanor extremely solemn. Doolender placed his hand on his chest, calmly walked towards them and praised, Extremely outstanding players representing Sky City. I offer you the highest congratulations and honor. As soon as Carl saw him, he exclaimed happily, Lord Doolender! Ethan, standing beside him, thought in confusion, There's no need to be that loud. Surprisingly, he suddenly swung out a rope, tying up all of them except Carl, and pulled them away. Please, 4 brave warriors, follow me. I will personally award you medals. Hearing his words, the surrounding crowd couldn't help but ask in confusion, 4. Why 4? As if realizing the problem, Carl then exclaimed, "I'm the boss, so it's normal that I'm not counted." Doolender suddenly punched the wall hard. He looked at Ethan with a friendly gaze and said, "Talking so much, do you want to die once?" This expression made Ethan tremble with fear and think to himself, the hope of mankind actually has this kind of personality. Doolender turned his head to look at the other three and said solemnly, "In short, that person's identity is not simple." Luke looked at him and said, "Even if you say so." Hearing this, Doolender then asked them, "Do you know why he doesn't display his level and profession?" Luke tilted her head and replied, "Isn't it because he's hiding it?" He immediately refuted, "No, it's because he doesn't have them. He's fundamentally not a player." As soon as he finished speaking, their group couldn't help but exclaim in astonishment, "What?" Ethan continued asking, "Not a player?" Luke followed up, "Then what is he?" Shadow beside them looked at them and replied, "A demon." To her answer, Luke turned her head to look at Shadow and asked in panic, "What did you say?" Shadow's eyes gradually darkened, and she smiled sinisterly, replying, "Moreover, possessing such heaven-defying power, he must be a high-level demon." Simultaneously, she thought to herself, "I guessed everything correctly." To her answer, Doolender tilted his head and praised silently, "I didn't expect this silent young lady to be so intelligent. This is truly delightful." Then he smiled, faintly, bowed his head and replied, "You guessed correctly, but he is countless times more terrifying than ordinary high-level demons. His true identity is a demon." When Doolender's words just finished, all of them except Shadow were extremely astonished and exclaimed in unison, "What?" Only she remained extremely calm and said, "It's very reasonable." Doolender looked at them and explained, "He pretends to be a weak bugged chicken, so he is a weak bugged chicken. To prevent something terrifying from happening, we have to play along with him. If we try to expose and anger him, it might lead to destruction. You four currently occupy 4 positions on the leaderboard. Like me, you are the hope of mankind." Ethan looked serious and asked, "So then," Doolender extended his hand in front of them and proposed, "Let's cooperate. Wait for an opportunity to kill him." To this proposal, Ethan without any hesitation extended his hand and immediately compromised. "Victory will definitely belong to us." Immediately after the agreement was successful, Doolender turned to leave, looked at them and said, "Then happy cooperation." Before leaving, he also didn't forget to turn his head back and remind them, "Let's protect the truth and protect the world together." Then his figure gradually shrank and disappeared. After he left, Luke frowned slightly and exclaimed, "I knew he was formidable, but I didn't expect it to be like this." Then she looked at Ethan and asked, "Captain, do you really want to cooperate with Doolender against Carl?" He glanced at Luke, smiled sinisterly, and replied, "Of course it's fake. I was just tricking that NPC. As a professional, I understand the current situation very well. In this world, no one can defeat him. So why should I seek death and become his enemy? Those who decisively betrayed me when I was in danger shouldn't talk about being righteous partners at this time." Hearing this, Luke sighed softly and said, "Indeed, our only goal is victory." Then Ethan turned his head to look at the other two and asked, "What about you two?" Shadow glanced and replied, "If you guys really want to become Lord Carl's dogs, then continuing to team up is fine." Her words felt like an arrow piercing Ethan's chest. An image appeared in his mind where Shadow was bowing respectfully, serving obediently, while he, with his head held high, arrogantly said, "I can listen to you." Ethan waved his hand in annoyance and reproached, "Next time you sneak attack a teammate, I'll fight back." Shadow glanced up, considering. Tia, at this moment, just timidly bowed her head and said softly, "As for me, I also—" But before she could finish, Ethan interrupted, "It seems everyone has reached a consensus." Seeing this, she exclaimed in panic, "I haven't finished speaking." Ethan put his hands in his trouser pockets and declared, "Then let's become villains together." From then on, the first human team joined the Demon Lord's faction in the city. The middle-aged man looked down from above and asked, "I heard a player team has already cleared the Lijing apartment dungeon." Hearing this, his subordinate replied, "Yes, sir. Humans are very resilient and can always surpass their limits and achieve unexpected results." After hearing this, he smiled with great satisfaction and exclaimed, "Excellent! Excellent! It seems the day we defeat the A-King, likely Demon Lord, is approaching." Then he continued to ask, "Doolender, has he returned yet?" His subordinate replied, "General, there's good news and bad news." He then replied,